And we will also hear the reading of our notice published in our Waycross Journal Herald by our city clerk, Mr. Nixon.
Thank you. City of Waycross, Georgia. Proposed budget submitted to the city commissioners for fiscal year 2025, May 21st, 2024, 4 p.m., 417 Pendleton Street, City Hall. The purpose of this commission meeting is the submission to the commission of the proposed budget for their consideration. All citizens of Waycross are invited to attend. Handicapped citizens requiring assistance to attend the meeting should make their request to the city manager's office, telephone 287-2912. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. At this time, we will hear our budget presentation by our director. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioner,
Yes, sir.
good afternoon.
Good
Good afternoon.
afternoon.
The purpose of my presentation, as the mayor said, is the proposed budget for our next fiscal year ending in 2025. And I just handed out the slides I'm about to show. The budget timeline is what the commissioners approved at a prior commissioner meeting. The third one from the bottom is the next meeting after the day is scheduled. The public hearing for the budget and the public, like as it says, the public has a right to be here and address any questions they may have. The full budget book is outside on the counter that's been there. I guess since Friday. And then the last bullet point is where the commissioners will approve the budget in a regular meeting, regularly scheduled meeting. And the next Tuesday, 2 weeks from now, going back to the third from the bottom bullet point, I mean, that's the day of a regular commissioner meeting too. So the commissioners will not have to make an extra trip here. Next, we have a slide of a budget overview. The budget includes the property tax revenue increase due to inflation and business growth. I've got with the tax commissioner, and he helped me with that. The water and sewer increases are due to a new budget and possible rate increases. When I did this budget, it was before the meeting last night, and we can cover that again in the section for the water and sewer fund. The budget includes the new retirement rule reduction cost that the commissioners approved a few weeks ago of $87,237. The next bullet point talks about our employee insurance as far as liability insurance and workers' comp. It's increased dramatically at the workers' comp. It went from $551,000 in fiscal year 22. That was actual at that point, and I budgeted for $1,183,560 for this budget year, and it's based on actual. When we did last year's budget, we do it before the year even starts. In fiscal year 24, we start it before the year starts, and we used actual data then. But since then, it's increased dramatically, and our risk manager is working diligently to try to get those cases down. What happened? We were self-insured with workers' comp several years ago, and we're still paying for some of those claims then. And I mean, my background's in healthcare, and it can be tough being self-insured. It's really hard to do if you're not in the healthcare business like we were, to be self-insured. But, we can't, what's happened in the past has happened. And our risk manager, Marissa, is working those cases down. And when she's trying to get them, go ahead and settle them, and then we'll be done with them. So, but that is reflected. We'll talk more about that, but that is reflected in the employee expenses, which, go with salaries hand in hand. And that's part of the increase in the general fund where our employees are. We had some employee changes from one department to another. You could say some of it's bookkeeping, especially in the police department, with just some corrections there. But, the numbers I'm presenting today are in total. So those grand total for the police department, do not change. But in the book or the email I sent you, there are some there. And I did put in the book, we put notes below the numbers, and there I did a little schedule for salaries that shows that change there for the police department. The new splash revenue is in this budget. It was last year, but we were just getting into what's involved, and we'll talk a little bit more about that this afternoon. And the auditors, recommend we put all funds in the presentation for the commissioners to approve, even the ones that are dormant, like the Kentucky Football Classic, where we had the college football teams come to our stadium. There's no money in that. There's no budget, but we haven't officially closed those funds out. So because of that, I've got zero budgets in there to satisfy that requirement. The ARPA funds are in here. We'll talk about that a little bit. The FEMA grant fund and some other miscellaneous small funds. We just need to have them all included to satisfy that requirement. If there's any questions as we go along, just let me know.
Okay.
All right, the proposed budget is on the screen. It's for all funds. As you see, the general fund is the biggest part at 42%. Water and sewer is 18%. And those are the two big ones. The the upper left quadrant is some of the splash and stormwater's in there too. And waste management, of course, that's by water and sewer. That pretty much goes hand in hand with water and sewer. And those two are about a fourth of our budget. But again, the general fund is less than half, but approaching half at 42%. And the bottom number is the total of all funds is $42,668,650.
Ms. Smith. Okay, what was the other funds at 1%? What was that?
Let me see.
So a small portion.
Mhm.
We had the forfeited property fund, the 24,000, jail fund 5,000, ATM fund 7,500, and it's on page 2 of your printed books. That's a
Okay.
good place
Thank
to
you.
look instead of me reading it. That way you'll have it in writing. Does that answer your question? We're gonna look at, it's on page 2 of the
Okay.
yes, the bottom and top of the page.
Yes, sir. I see it. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And here's the fund summary. I'm sorry. Here it is right here. Here's the answer to your question right here. I'm sorry. You see the bottom part is those other funds that I was reading out to you.
Yes, sir.
And, the general fund, the top line, that increase, is approaching $2 million. That's a real increase. And what I'll tell you what I mean by that about being real in a minute. But, that does include, the salary increase, but also the benefit increase, the workers' comp that doubled in the past few years, and the liability insurance increased dramatically. So that's why that went up as much as it did. It's 12.2% in the upper right corner. Is that increase there? And looking at the bottom line, going up 4.6 million, that to me, that is somewhat misleading because it includes the ARPA fund. It's six rows from the bottom of 1.8 million. I put the 1.9 million for next fiscal year, but actually all that's going to occur in the first 6 months of the year, July through December, because we have to spend it, and we're well on the way to doing that. We've got plans for it, but that does skew the increase of 1.8 million does skew the bottom line for all the funds. The only negative difference or decrease up there is the T-Splosh 2018. The prior year, we projected we'd spend 6.9 million. This year, we're projecting we'll spend 5 million, and that is spending, it's not revenue coming in from the T-Splosh. It's a combination of prior collections of the T-Splosh and current T-Splosh. The 2014 fund, again, 2014, we've stopped receiving that revenue years ago, but we're still have funds on hand. We're still spending that money, including the parks, I do have a detail of that too, but that's the most of the differences right there. Is there any questions on that? I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you at one time.
So you're saying that the monies that are still on hand are being utilized now for parks and various other things.
Right.
But next year, 2024, well, at the end of this year, 2025, I guess you'd be from July to December, we would not be utilizing anything from this fund because it would be
not from ARPA.
Okay.
Right.
Now, I thought this was the Splash that we were talking about, Splash 2014. Because I'm noticing on the 2024, you have nothing in it for this time.
Right. I probably should have. I probably should have had something in there. But because the revenue has stopped, but we still need to report this fund because we've got funds in there. We're still spending the funds. So that's why I estimated that we'd spend a little over $1 million for the fiscal year 25 from the Splash 2014. I do have a detail in a later page of this.
Yeah, that's earmarked to go to those unpaved roads.
I got you.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
So what I typed in, well, I didn't type it in, but I wrote it in unpaved roads. But what I was trying to make sure is, even though we see this, because as citizens read this, they were trying to find out where, especially when you made the comment that we still have some on hand, but we'll be using some in parks. But I thought you were talking about ARPA then.
No.
But you were talking about 2014 SPLOST, which
Right.
is going to go to portions of the roads that need to be done. I got you. And thank you.
And while we're talking about the parks, we've started reporting the parks budget for each district, each commissioner, and we're going to continue doing that. That way, you won't have to ask for it. You'll get it every month. And
Thank you.
And the new software is going to help with that tremendously. But we'll do that. Okay, next is the general fund. It shows what the revenue on the left, expenses on the right. Most of our revenue comes from taxes and licenses, including the local option sales tax. There, the biggest item is those taxes. There's permits, alcohol tax, miscellaneous revenues. are included in there. And then on the right side, the expenses, you know, the departments we were talking about. The fire department's gone up a good bit, but besides, I mean, all the departments have gone up a good bit. But one reason the fire department has some extra expenditures for next fiscal year is they've changed the definition or what a salary is, and some of the people previously that were on salary, because of their qualifications, we have to actually pay them overtime. You know, there's rules. You know, lots of, you know, if a person has a high salary, you know, you don't have to pay them overtime. But the rules have changed for some of the firemen, so we do have to pay some overtime there. So that increased their budget a little bit more than the others. But as you can see, you know, the other departments too have gone up. And again, it's, you know, one of the biggest parts is the insurance, the workers, the employee benefits, which includes workers' comp and liability insurance.
And that was a conversation you had a little bit with us just a few moments ago. You said salaries, you said workman's comp and liability insurance would be a part of the increase of the 2 million that we were talking about earlier
Right.
in the earlier portion of the budget.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And
And
this
then,
was
you know,
about,
the
what, 500,000?
department heads, they don't have control over that, you know?
Right.
And so that's, you know, I've kept talking about that with them, and, you know, that what they can only control what they can control, you know, so they're working the best they can with the budgets to try to keep us in line. Next is water and sewer fund. The revenue, you know, the revenue for the water and sewer fees and sewer service fees are the same budget item, but I looked at the actual revenue, you know, so far this year, and I did increase it somewhat for new businesses and anticipation of possibly having a increase in fees there. But the bottom line, you know, it's a little over 200,000, the bottom left. And then, like I said, I did not increase the fees budget, but it is from real life for actual, it is an increase. On the right side are the expenditures, excuse me, and the difference between the 2 years is between the water plant, the operating and non-operating is paying off of debt. The engineer Trey talked about, you know, old debt we're taking off the books, and that is reflected in the water plant numbers going from 4.6 million to 3.7. But really we're paying some other debt in the non-operating. That's the way we've done it here. So to me, on the expenditures, to me, the truer numbers are the bottom line, you know, the 7.2 million and the 7.4 million.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. When you said we paying non-other debt from in the past, how far back are you speaking?
I mean, last fiscal year, we made our last payments on some big debt payments. And that's what Trey was talking about, that he doesn't want us to spend that money. You know, he wants us to put it in savings and get ready for some more debt. You could say, but we have some debt. We still have debt on the water and sewer, but it's not big projects like that the engineers are saying we need to do, you know, big, like redoing the water and sewer plant, that sort of thing. Because like I said last night, it's been over 20 years since we've had a major project to redo the water and sewer plants. And I'm not an engineer, but as an accountant, I just know that, you know, you need to be replenishing fixed assets. Accountants do put lives on certain assets, and you know, when we look at the history of, or look at the fixed assets we have on hand, our overall age of things are, they are older. And it's, so looking at it just from an accountant standpoint, it is time to look at possibly getting new assets.
Right.
And it won't, fixed assets, they don't, the way we expense, long-term benefit assets is over time. So it's not going to hurt our financials that much, if we buy some, because we depreciate, those assets over time. But
Right.
still, just looking at, the age of the assets, the books are saying it's time to look at
Absolutely.
reinvesting.
Thank
So
you.
that was going along with the analogy he made with the car yesterday.
Mhm.
Right, right,
I guess.
right.
Okay.
Next is the stormwater fund. It's the fees have gone up a little bit, just by having more customers, or it's not from us going up on any rates. The residential's gone up 14,000, and it could, to be honest, it probably is a timing difference. Sometimes, everybody doesn't pay their water bill, the same every year. And I have a feeling that's what it is too. But it did go up in actual, the actual fees went up. So that's why I increased the budget a little bit. On the right side are expenditures, and the operating expenses. We haven't been spending as much as we thought we would in the prior year. So that's the reason I lowered the operating expenses budget to 177,000 for 350,000. But we have spent more on the capital outlays, like the engineers want us to, and that's the reason the budget numbers are different, even though the total is 11,000 more than the prior year. And next is waste management. There's not a lot of changes here. The budget, which is based on actual, is a lot the same, throughout the expenditures and the revenue. The total budget went from 2.672 million to 2.682, which is, there's not a change in total or line items. There's some barely changed at all, or didn't change at all. Next is the splash 2014. This is the one we talked about earlier. We had 0 in the prior year, and I've got $1,010,000 this year with and the biggest part, the $1,001,000 on the left side is fund balance. That indicates that it's not new money coming in, it's money we have in the bank that we're using that we collected in prior years, but we still have it in the bank, so we can spend this money. And where I'm saying we have been spending it is public facility improvements, 950,000, and then the city parks improvement, that's the 60,000 that the commissioners have input into where we spend that money.
Mhm.
The splash 2023, that's the new splash that started last year, and it was all new to us last year, so we put 3.2 million, but from 2025, the more realistic numbers, the little over 4 million at 4,030,000 there. And on the right side, we have it under engineering projects, because that's going to the overpass that we're going in with the county to build the new overpass. So, and the contracts that we have with the county say that we have to spend that money first, has to go there. And we've talked some about possibly or realistically going ahead and using some of the money, or at least the revenue anticipated from these funds, that we really need to go ahead and spend some of this money as needed, and get a loan get loans as needed, and then paying off the loans the time we get the money in. So, and we do have good financial statements, and so we have a low interest rate, and plus we have a low interest rate because we are a city, and the interest is not taxable to the banks. Here's the T-Splosh, and again, the revenue on the left side, you know, the tax revenue for the year is I have a typo. The numbers at the top, the years at the top are wrong. It should be 24 and 25, not 23 and 24. But the numbers are right for 24 and 25, with the sales tax revenue anticipated for 25, 3,915,000, and then we've got a fund balance from prior years of 3 million to give us total revenue 6,915,462, and we're gonna, it says professional services. That means, you know, contracting out to you know, the concrete companies and that sort of thing to do what we need to for the roads, for the road paving companies. It says professional services. It's not attorneys and accountants, but people that work on roads, like construction companies.
Understood. So we're seeing an increase in revenue about 715,462 that would be translated
Right.
to parts of the expenditure.
Right. And then questions. There is one item I want to go back to real quick. The first.
Mr. Mayor, while Greg's doing that, and I know I'll present at a later date as far as city manager presentation.
Okay.
But we do want to stress the importance of the expenses did go up with the insurance and liabilities. That's really kicking our butt right now, and we got to figure that out. Definitely next year if we want to do any addition to the budget moving forward. That is also the reason we talk about other situations and stuff. When Greg mentioned financing some of our anticipated funding, we haven't looked at other cities do that, and we'll go deep into that presentation if need be. But we're simply saying by the time we collect the funding for these projects, definitely after 5 years, then with inflation, then we know what we said we was going to do in the beginning, we cannot do later on. And that's been the frustration with most of the citizens. I know some commissioners have told me that numerous times about waiting on the money to come in. And then we do get in and we said we was going to pave 20 roads. And now with the increase in concrete, increase in labor or lack of labor, now that price is almost double. So we can't get what needs to be done. So what I asked Greg to do was look at some different ways of financing so we can do some of these projects much sooner than later. And I wish that's other city managers, other cities, so they do that long anticipation. I think that's what they call it too in some cities. I do want to say that right now so the commission can have time to really think about that because the monies have been collected a little bit faster with the taxes this year. I believe the money for the overpass is already done as far as the county, and we've already started on the additional monies. So, and we don't have discussion right now, but I do feel like probably this time next year when that money, well, not this time next year, as soon as possible, we can have that discussion on if we want to go that route as far as taking a loan out on the money, basically financing the road. We might lose a little bit on the dollar, but if we wait till it's collected, we're gonna lose a lot once again because of inflation. And that's something we have learned from this past, the 214, that's the 218, because what that was intended for, just it can't cover what it's trying to cover now.
So this goes back, there were a couple of things that was stated earlier, one of which happened to be that we were self-insured or that we were taking care of ourselves, and this has bitten us in times past. So now we're trying to do something totally different. Is that some of the money that we lost that we're having discussion about now?
Yes, and our risk manager, as you know, like the our city manager said, she's working on making that better, and our rating is better than it was. So we're fully insured. We're paying premiums like you do with regular insurance, but because of our rating now, we're in a better shape, and so our premiums are lower than they would have been if we didn't have a good rating.
Just a question regarding rating. What was the rating prior to, and what is the rating presently?
So our current modifier rate is 1.18. So the goal is to get it as close to 1 as possible. And so this is our first modifier being fully insured.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can, we just attended a briefing today by the legislators, and I hope y'all heard what they mentioned about all the insurance costs going up when they hopped on that point. So I don't know, legislative wise, if that can be addressed, because it's going to keep going up. So that's something we got to start like kind of programming into our financial management plan as well, because it's not going to go down. So unless we find a different organization to cover us, but that's going to be expense. We got to like back to last night, we got to find other ways to generate revenue to cover some of these things. So I know we can't do all it right now, but just need the commission to kind of understand that moving forward.
My question is, who do we trust? Because when you go back to that whole process, you're saying we may be able to go through another vein or another way. But then in that same note, my question then, comes to are we trust? We believe in who we have. Obviously, and some of the things that we're seeing being done now were not being done prior to this point, and that's why, as she was saying, getting back to as close to 1 as possible with that modifier. So my whole goal, at least my idea about the goal for this, is that we don't have a struggle with the insurance, but I see that it is increasing, and we do know that the legislators are talking along those lines. So just listening to them today was an interesting conversation, or at least a listening opportunity.
Yeah, we will definitely do more research on this. I know each time you do that, you don't have a lot of time to figure that stuff out, but just because we all know now, this will be a problem in the future for a long time, and unless I guess up top at the federal level they figure it out. But and I don't want to put anybody on the spot right now with our current plan, but I know everybody has questions about it because it is quite expensive, and just haven't had time to really dig into that like we need to. That's something we're going to definitely do this next year, the next calendar year, because I'm not sure we can take that again, this hit next year, especially if it goes up again.
So I do know we have another hearing on the 4th at 4:30. Okay. So we'll probably revisit some things and probably see some things improve by that time.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm late. I thought it was 4:30.
Yes.
So I'm ready.
So did you have anything else? And Commissioner, did you have any questions?
No, I read about the zones already, so I'm good. Okay.
Yeah, there's one point I missed I want to come back to,
Okay.
and it's positive, so that's one reason to come back to it.
Thank you.
On the general fund, the interest income, the commissioners have allowed us to invest in treasury bills, and the banks were paying us less than 1%. The treasury bills, we have a yield of 5%, and so the interest income that's positive. We went from a budget of 14,150 to 225,000, and the banks are starting to come up now. But by us buying treasury bills, it got the bank's attention. They're like, let's see what we can do for you too. So we're have already moved some of our money to money market, a money market account, but it's just another account at the bank. But it's that we're getting close to 5% on that too. So in these funds, it's not I don't call it investments as far as trying to make money off the tax revenue, but it's just what most good businesses do. You invest some of it. It makes our balance sheet look better. That get higher. The more money we have in the bank, the assets are higher, and it shows that we have profits to
Offset that.
I can't say profits. Even Commissioner Davis isn't here. I still can't say, he don't like me to say that word.
Yeah, and don't bring.
Not profit. Anyway, sorry. But the contingency funds, where things go, if we have, an emergency with the water and sewer plant or the roads, we have contingency funds that we can put in this account too, that and again, we don't want to spend it, because we don't want to have expense. If we expend it, that'll be an expense, and if expense is more than revenue, that does not make our financials look good. And again, we need good financials to get the good loans that we've been getting. And also it's just good business to have contingency funds on hand, or funded depreciation is what we call it at the hospital here, where we're funding depreciation to replace assets as they expire. That's all I have.
And Mr. Mayor, so the next presentation, there will be two faceless slides, we call them, and those will have the exact additions or subtractions to the budget. I'll point out one right now. We did go back and look some things that we added to the budget last year, or took out of the budget last year. Oftentimes, as far as the public works budget, we had to pay for signs and stuff of that nature, and nothing's wrong with that. But we kept pulling from public works the actual budget. So this time we kind of, much like the parks budget, we gave each commissioner a sign replacement budget, because we have to replace the other signs within the community. As far as streets, some of our streets don't have signs and some don't have stop signs. Some of the stop signs need to be moved to the proper place. So all that's going to have a cost to it too. So that's kind of part of the built in per district. But at the same time, I think we allotted $2,000 each for each commissioner to do like new purpose signs, stuff like that. But we have definitely got to fix the signs. As we're doing our study with GDOT, here recently we have discovered like some of our stop signs are what they call invisible. So because the way they're placed, you can't see them. And that's why we've had certain accidents. And it's very important this year that we make a conscious effort to move those. And it's not like we can just charge ourselves and have Public Works just come dig it up. It is a cost associated with it, because in some cases we have to be a brand new stop sign, so it can be visible in some of those intersections. And that's very important just in regard to safety. So that'll be on the faces slide, so the commissioners can see why we kind of made that decision based off of last year's addition and subtractions. So I want to point that out at the next meeting.
Thank you. So if there are no other remarks,
I have a question, Mayor.
Commissioner.
This is for our finance director, Mr. Greg Smith. We spoke the other day regarding funding that the city receives from the Housing Authority.
Right.
Could you please share that with the commission and how much that funding is, how often we receive it, and where does it go into our budget, and how is it utilized?
Let me find it right quick.
I turned to page 3. The general fund.
So the question is on amount, placement, and usage.
Page 3.
Yeah, I found it. Water, excuse me. It's on page 4, the big book, and the actual for 2023 was 31,693. The actual through March for fiscal year 24 is 40,188, and the budget's been around 35,000. So the sort of way I look at it, they were below budget the prior fiscal year, but they're above budget this fiscal year. And we do not anticipate any more funds coming in from them. And the general ledger line on the bottom of page 4, says Housing Authority in lieu of T and T's taxes. They do not pay property taxes, and the money they give us, paid to us, goes into the general fund, and that is, that includes the, I can flip back to that. Here on the right side is the expenses for the general fund. This the fourth line on the budget on the left side under revenue, the 45,000 for both 24 and 25 fiscal year. That's where the budget of 35,000 is for the housing authority, and it goes into the general fund, the same pool that the city taxes and sales tax, such as lost, go into. And so on the right side is the expenses, including police department and fire department.
So is that what the funds cover, or police and fire only?
No, it's all it goes into a pool of funds, the general fund,
Okay.
a pool of funds. And I mean that's the one, those are the two largest funds in the expenses, are the police and fire. Your public works is in there,
Commissioner,
two street lights.
hold on, Rick. Commissioner, if you're asking to earmark that money, we can talk about that because it's not directly go anywhere specifically. He just puts it in the general fund, then it's spread through all the areas.
All of
But if we want to talk about putting it specifically, I'm assuming some kind of way to go into some type of improvement for those areas. We can have discussion, but it's not like it's earmarked for anything at this point in time.
Thank you. I would like that, please. Thank you.
Any further questions of the director?
No.
If we have no other questions, then we'll move for adjournment.
Make a motion for adjournment.
Okay,
Second the motion.
motion and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carried. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, director.
Thank you.
And thank you, city manager.
Thanks, Mayor.